When I started studying with Rudy, this practice that we do here was called the work. And it was it was effortful. We were, as a group of students, trying to improve ourselves, trying to get somewhere, to attain something, to find harmony and balance in our lives, to be more productive and effective in how we lived, to get past our suffering, our emotional domination, our fears, all of these things that are part of what you might call a practice. All noteworthy, important, in some ways essential part of the human experience. Growing, becoming. And then there's this transformative moment that can occur. Not exactly because of all the work you've done, not necessarily earned, something that happens that is a realization that there is no separate you to achieve or attain anything. And we've talked about it considerably here. It's awakening, it's enlightenment, oneness, totality, the absolute, all of these wonderful words to describe a way of being that in a sense transcends doing. The dichotomy of this class is that it is attracting people who want to be in the presence of singularity, the presence of stillness, oneness, openness, awakened being. And once you arrive in that space, there is really nothing to be done while you're in that space. Let's put it that way. Some people think it's a permanent attainment, that it goes on forever, and that once you've arrived, that's done. And there's some very real truth to that. But as somebody very importantly said to me, and I've said it many times, you're still there. There are many people who come to this practice maybe wanting all of that, but basically dealing with all of the struggles and difficulties of just getting through the day, of just being a human being, of living. And the journey of living is hard for almost everybody. When you're dealing with the journey of living, talk about oneness and enlightenment and awakening and all of that all sounds wonderful, and it gives you something maybe to look forward to or hope for or imagine into place, whatever you want to do with it. But the day-to-day reality is you're struggling with one emotional issue or another, one mental construct, one physical discomfort or another. You're just trying to get through the day. And this kind of talk, while perhaps edifying and satisfying on some deep level, isn't addressing the larger specific issues of how do I survive this minute? I speak to many, many people, like we all do, mostly friends, associates, family members, who are sometimes expressing a great deal of frustration or fear or concern about what their life is doing or becoming, who they are, why they're not attracting what they want to attract, why they've attracted what they did attract, why they can't have more, why they didn't get the thing they should have gotten it goes on and on and on. And when I talk to everybody about it, their sincerity in their suffering is remarkable. There's real hurting going on. Real for them. Maybe for everyone. And, you know, there's ways to address it, but I can tell you probably the one thing that most of them both want to hear and don't want to hear is, it's all an illusion, it's all a dream, don't worry about it, take a breath, you know, wake up. You don't have to suffer so much. I mean, that's okay. Okay, great. But it doesn't really take care of business. And if it can, and if it might for some people, God bless, it's a wonderful thing to suddenly be told none of this is real. Oh! And it's a great revelation, and you're done. Okay. But mostly it's philosophical and it's dialectic. It's something people are trying to contemplate and work with and don't know quite how to fit into it. So Rudy, in his absolute, I think, brilliance, just said there's work to be done. There's work to be done to get through life. And he gave us a practice, which I teach, which I've been teaching for, God knows, between 40 and 50 years here. And yet, there are rules that we practice. It's a breathing exercise. It has to do with chakras. All of you who are here know what it is. Those of you who haven't been initiated into it only can I kind of assume what it might be, but it's a breathing exercise, breathing into the energy centers in your body, which are called chakras, and there are certain ways of interpreting those chakras, and mostly in people they function at various moments, either openly or they're closed, and people have to operate through the chakras that are working for them. And many people are wildly imbalanced. Some people have these enormous intellectual chakras, mind chakras, if you will, very weak, what we'll call ego expressive chakras that come out of your throat, heart chakras that are either completely open and loving everybody or loving nobody, including yourself, gut level chakras in your belly that are really, you know, either making life happen for you or are obstructed and make nothing happen for you, so life doesn't really function. Sexual chakras, which are about rebirth and recreation and renewal of yourself. And then this energy that ignites and unifies all of them, which is called Kundalini energy. And this is, you know, these are just descriptions and words, and yes, you can actually go into all of these spaces in yourself and do all the time, but you can do it consciously and affect them. So you can go into places in your mind and actually expand your mind, expand your capacity to express yourself in real terms, in effective terms. You can go into your heart and learn to love others and love yourself. You can learn to go into your gut and power through life, to use your will as an effective tool. You can use your sexuality to get reborn every time you're torn apart and brought down into nothing. You can come back again and come back again and come back again. And you can align all of these factors and source and centers so that you become what Rudy called a whole person. That's so important. It's so important. And so many people that I talk to and deal with on a daily basis have not even begun that journey. They have no concept of that journey. They are muddling through because, as we all know, there is no real rule book for this life. We come close to certain kind of religious teachings, the Ten Commandments, the Bible, the New Testament, the Bhagavad Gita, you know, the teachings of Buddha, you know, Muhammad. These are all, they're guidebooks in a way. And they're rather generalized. They don't always talk directly to each of us, because how do you talk to each of us? How do you get that specific? You talk to the universal, you talk to the general, but how do you talk to the singular? And what's valuable about this practice is how singular it becomes, how absolutely directed it is to each person sitting here. It is extraordinary, and for many of you, I'm sure you kind of go, what exactly are we doing here? What exactly is going on? Yes, there's a breathing exercise that tries to help open these centers that may or may not be shut down in you, but there's also this eye-to-eye contact. eye to eye, looking at each other. And what is that? What really is happening when you look at a human being? Let's talk about it just in general, not in class, but when you're sitting talking to a business associate. What's happening? You're looking, you're talking, you're finding a place of familiarity and comfort. That's the first thing you do. My son was just talking, he's in the dating pool again. He's going out there, and God knows I'm so grateful I'm not doing that. Because it's like nothing that ever existed before. You go out with all sorts of, things that you've already gotten online that give you information that tells you nothing, that helps you try to find a way into an opening line or opening dialogue that's now happened 400 times or 5,000 times. And so everybody's prepared for the opening gambit. What are you going to say? How are you going to say it? And everybody's already judging each other and already dismissing each other because there's another 20,000 opportunities waiting for you. So that original moment of connection is so fraught with difficulty that it hardly ever happens. It just hardly happens. But what you're trying to do is look at somebody and connect. Connect with another person. Another person who is, one, totally frightened of that. Totally closed to that possibility. Only open to it in one small sense, maybe intellectually. Okay, I can open to their mind. I can open mind to mind a little bit. Some of their thoughts I can open to. Can I open to their heart and love them? I don't even know them. How do I open to their heart? How do I open to the fact that they've got a will and that they want things that I maybe don't want, and maybe they want things I do want? How do I find that alignment? I got to figure that out. See, all of these things are kind of happening as you're sitting with another person. Who am I with? What is their story? What is the history? What am I getting? What do I want? What should happen? Poof. It's so complicated. It's so difficult. What we do here is we bring all that down into stillness. We bring it down into a very quiet, focused place. It doesn't mean your mind shuts off, because you all know your mind doesn't shut off. It's still moving around. But it's kind of moving around like in molasses. It's not, it's like, and you're kind of thinking a little bit and watching and observing and understanding things, and there's stuff going on. But when we are looking at each other, there's this first moment of, oh God. Here he is. What is he seeing? I'm not ready. What's going on? Why couldn't he come to me before when I was ready? Maybe he can come later. Oh God, he's here. Okay, what do I do? And we're just looking at each other. And for me, just so you know what's going on, one, I am just seeing the chemistry, if you will, or the energy source, the energy configuration of that moment. There is no judgment. There just is, this is what is happening. And I start to feel inside all of the discordance, if you will, the playing, the upper levels of the energy, the stuff that's rising up, that coming up out of you. I'm starting to feel all of this stuff, and I'm trying to get very quiet with it. And what happens when I get really quiet is that your energy starts to go, okay, it's not so bad. This is okay. All right. And you start to settle in a little bit, and you start to relax. And as you relax, you start to feel strangely open. You feel like a kind of a deep comfort, a deep kind of, this is okay. It's a little bit like snuggling. When you snuggle with somebody, you go, oh, oh, oh. And snuggling can turn into a lot of stuff. But snuggling by itself is really sweet. And you snuggle and you get quiet. And what's happening here is, I'm a little bit like a piano tuner. I've used this idea before. But it's like, bring, bring. And if the two of you are not, if those notes aren't working together, they start to align. They start to come into one chord, the necessary chord that is like, ah. My hands move during the class. You are all aware of that. They are in attunement with something that is not intellectual, and I could never explain to you what is going on with the movement of my hands. I can only tell you that it knows stuff. It's bizarrely aware. It can tell me, my thumb has to come right here. And the moment it comes there, there is a kind of profound interaction between me and you. I cannot tell you why. Why was my thumb being here interact with you? No idea. But it is, and it does, and it is profoundly powerful. And then there's a directive, and a directive that is not intellectual, that is not emotional, it's just a knowing, and it starts to move, it starts to quietly add to the equation or subtract from the equation, and ultimately it finds deep, deep stillness. And as that stillness is found, there is a part of you psychically that is brought into that space simply by sitting still and letting go. It is a little bit like a guided meditation, but it's not words that are guiding. There is something else that is guiding your awareness into stillness. And as it goes into stillness, there is a sense of, from my perspective, boy, that feels good. Oh. It feels like the first lick of an ice cream cone. It feels like, I had a piece of key lime pie last night. It was explosively delicious. I had a moment I've had so many moments with my grandchildren that are exactly what I'm talking about. It's a sense of, I talk about this a lot. It's like, I am glad I was born just to have this moment. And I get it with you. I get it with each one of you. I am so glad I was born because I have this moment. And I have a moment with each of you that is on the equivalent scale of what I have with my grandchildren. It is a sense of, wow, connection. I have connected with, we can call it another human being, but that's not what it feels like. I have connected with myself. That's what it feels like. I have found me again. And I have found me in other. I have found me in somebody who I don't know their story, or if I know the story, mostly, honestly, forgive me, I don't remember the story well. I don't hold on to your stories. All I know is there is this being inside me that is connected to the being in you, and we discover, if we're lucky, that it's the same being. And every time that discovery occurs, something in me goes, wow. And I know I'm there, and I believe you know you're there. That's the feedback I'm getting, that a part of you knows you're there. And when that happens, my job with you is done. Move on, next person. And then it starts all over again. Somebody's there. And again, you're looking at me going, oh, you know, everything I said before. Here he is, oh God, okay. And we go through the dance, and we do the dance, and the dance does not take long because each one of you is relatively accomplished at this. And you start to do the letting go, which is letting go being the key thing, letting go of your attachment to yourself, to your ego, to your presentation, to what you're thinking, I'm thinking, letting go of all that and just be. And as you do that, the faster and more easily you do it, or the more you accept my help in doing it, it happens. And as it happens, you find yourself going deeper and deeper and deeper into the well of being, from which we all spring. Every one of us comes from this place. When you get there, it is a place of what I will call resolution. It resolves the problems of your life. Now, I will tell you, the minute you come back to ego-minded self, those problems are going to play them all over again. They're going to be right there. But you have now learned, I can do this. I can do this. I can go to this place of resolution, of release, of surrender, of arrival where I am fine. I am okay as I am. This space underlies everything in your life. It underlies everything. So when you're going through a bad day, you know, and God knows, when I hear from people, I hear about really bad days. And you listen to the people, and all I want to say is, one, I want to connect with them. I want to sit long enough to help them find their way back to resolution, to stillness, to being, to oneness. And what happens when you go there is the bad day is no longer the primary focus. It's just something that has happened. It's just happening. The bad day happens. And trust me, if you are alive in a world of dualistic experience, good and bad will alternate continually. Continually. One of the problems of early childhood and growing up in the world is you begin to experience happiness and pleasure, and you begin to experience unhappiness and displeasure. And you start to want to have happiness and pleasure, and you don't want unhappiness and displeasure. So you begin this search in the world to hold on to the happiness when you find it, and the pleasure, and to get rid of the other stuff. And the problem with all of that is it is finding something in the world of duality that it only exists part of the time because its existence is dependent on its opposite. Happiness can only be there if there's unhappiness. Pleasure can only be there if there's displeasure. So this effort to constantly find the pleasurable and discard the unpleasurable is fraught with problems because it can't be held. Dualistic reality in the realm we live in is always going to be a realm of failure because you cannot hold on to the thing that's changing. You can't. So everyone who's seeking happiness and pleasure in life is going to end up miserable because you can't hold it. You never can hold it. You think you figured it out. Oh, if I had this, I built that, and I married that person, and I had this thing given to me, and I could eat 5 gallons of ice cream a day, I would be totally happy and filled with pleasure. And then try it. Try it. Watch what happens. Try being addicted to the person you love. That they don't like it. Try eating 5 gallons of ice cream a day. Watch what happens. It's really interesting. Your pleasure zones are overridden, and you end up in a place where you feel terrible. You've put on 500 pounds. Now you got to deal with that. All of these issues start to come up. What's the resolution for this? Finding a place that is not connected to pleasure, pain, happy, sad, that just is. That just is. That has within it a sense of, I'm going to use the word contentment as opposed to happy, sad, just a place that is okay. And as you find this place inside you, it relieves you from trying to find it in the world where it doesn't exist. You find the thing that you're looking for not out there, but in here. And when you know that's part of the journey, when you know this is the effort that's to be made to go inside, and you start to do the work of that, you start to find the thing you are truly looking for in life, which is this place of constant, real being. You can't find it without the effort. If you stumble upon it, chances are you won't know what to do with it. The effort is part of the process. So what we teach here is the effort and the understanding that once that effort has flowered on some level, you will be at a place of non-dualistic, awakened and enlightened awareness. For people who come here in that state, there is a dialogue that is exchanged with all of you that reflects that space and talks about it and is in many ways reinforcing of the awareness. For those of you who come here seeking that state, we offer a practice to help you arrive at that place. It is a kind of all-purpose workshop. It delivers on the level of striving and on the level of arriving. It is a place for everybody. But if you're coming here and you say, oh God, he's got to practice. I don't want to practice. I've been practicing. I've done the practice part. I get that. In that case, don't come here. Go to people who just sit and talk about the joys and miracles of being awake. Or come here And don't practice, just be. Just be. Just being is its own effort, its own truth, its own reality. Just being is not passive. Trust me. You may think it's passive. Oh, I can just be. But there's so much moving inside and arriving and forming and becoming that there is a kind of effort to just go, okay, yes, 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 yes. It's really powerful. Being able to do that takes a lifetime of practice to finally get to the place where you go, yes. So, don't be afraid to come here and work your asses off, and don't be afraid to come here and do nothing. They're both part of the same teaching. They're both part of oneness. People don't understand that those seeking perfection have to embrace imperfection. If you think perfection is the opposite of imperfection, you're wrong. Perfection is saying yes to the imperfection of what you are. And trust me, we are all imperfect on some part of our being. And the perfection we seek is there at the core because it encompasses everything, including your imperfection, your sadness, your struggle, your difficulty, all of that. There is this extraordinary space within us that says yes to it all. When you arrive at that, then the effort is stay there. Just stay there. And you will see 1,000 reasons why you can't. And when you see those reasons, you can go, okay, I get that one, okay, that one, I'm not going to do that, okay, okay, okay. And then you get good. You get really good at staying still where you are. Or if you slip out into, mindful madness of being, you'll go, oh wow, I slipped. Wow. Or you'll just float around in the slip zone for a while. But one of the incredible things that happens in life is it changes. The worst stuff comes up and then it goes away. I was walking the other day and feeling kind of agitated, and I'm going, well, if I just walk and if I just breathe, this will go away. And I walked and I breathed and nothing went away. And I said, oh well, it's not going anywhere. So I just kept walking. And all of a sudden it went away. But I didn't do it. I didn't get there. It just does what it does. It's endless change. And by not struggling to make it do something, willing it into transformation, just be, and life does what it's supposed to do. I read this great line the other day. It's actually by Deepak Chopra, and it's really interesting. And I'm not sure I can quote it exactly, but basically it's this idea that this moment is the matrix of all possibilities. This moment is all possibilities arriving into this. Infinite, unending possibility has become you. It's become you. It's not making a mistake, guys. It's not messed up. It's not figuring its way out. It's becoming what it is. And you are what is. You are what is. Once you go okay to that, this journey just gets clearer and clearer and clearer. And you walk around going, wow, this moment is infinite time and space, the matrix of all of that coming together here and now. Wow. This is it. So, come here to practice, come here to be, come here to surrender, come here to learn, come here to forget. You do it all. This is a space where that can take place, and it's worth doing. It's just worth doing in order to find the worth of being. And that's what we're sharing in this environment, and I'm endlessly grateful that we do it. Any questions?
When you say you look at us all and we're all discrete energy, is there also Because some people are responding to the energy in the room when you're over here and the Kriyas and things. I'm just wondering if you see energy moving between us. Or
Yes. Let me put this really, I'm glad you said that, because I've been wanting to say this for a long time. We cross-pollinate. And the energy of the room, the configuration of the room, is exactly what it needs to be. In other words, we are, whatever manifests in this space is the collective moment that we all are. And so when one of us has a Kriya, that's just an idea, or an eruption of energy, it moves out into the environment. It can disturb or it can collect, depending upon your reaction to it. But your openness, the journey that happens when I'm working with you, is something that's needed by everybody else in the room. Every single person benefits from the collective experience. We are what has come together at this moment because this is what needs to be together. And it's really fascinating to me because I watch, I go, I can see something working from you happening, affecting somebody sitting over here. I can feel the dynamic. It's a little bit like an orchestra conductor, which is often how I feel. This note's happening here, but this one's getting ready to play. And when that one strikes, this is going to happen. And it's so beautiful. It's like the most unbelievable symphony of energy that I get to both conduct and hear. We're all hearing it in our own way, but most people in the orchestra tend to think of it as their instrument. They're playing their instrument as part of the whole. Try to imagine what happens when you're in an orchestra and suddenly you're not your instrument, you're just part of the whole. And when you play, it's not you doing it, it's not, oh my God, I got to get the note right. All that's gone. You're just one with the totality. When that happens, that's when the most beautiful music takes place.
And when you talked about when you meet someone and you try to find your connection, you see the energy in us because you're in a state. When you're in the world, as you come across people, do you see things or do you sense and know?
It's so fascinating. There are some people open the door for me to go immediately into energetic space, and some people do not. And you can see almost immediately. There's no entry point. So it's just like everybody else, Hi, how are you? What's going on? Oh, good. I'm glad you're having it. And then other people just suddenly go, well, I really had a hard day today. There's something going on. I don't know what it is. And they kind of like open the door, and you just share with them, and their vulnerability, their humbleness, all of that just suddenly opens up, and there's like a doorway in, and they can feel it, and you can feel it, and you connect. And there's a touchstone that starts to expand, and you start to have a real dialogue. And it comes out, you never know where it's going to happen. Never. And every time it starts to happen, you go, wow. And then you see, I walk through the door. I don't ever not walk through the door. If the door opens, I'm in there. And when I go in, I get to share with people. And what happens at that point is not Bruce. It's not Bruce talking. It's the universe saying, thank you for letting me in. Let's connect. And the connection goes, boop, and it's beautiful. It doesn't always last long. Sometimes it lasts an entire plane ride. You never know. You just never know. But it's so incredible. It happens with waiters and waitresses and people at the checkout counter. I talk about that a lot because if you just look at a person and connect and say thank you or whatever, often they just open the door and this little thing passes by. It's real. It's real. They know it's real. I try to greet people because I walk a lot. I pass people, and you can tell those who are going to be able to, and willing to greet, and those who don't want to look at you at all, and those who have a perfunctory kind of hello, But sometimes you actually connect. You really do, and it's extraordinary. And this other thing I've described of walking in crowds where everybody's energy comes into me, I can't do much with it. I can just learn from it. Learn, 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 learn. Occasionally, you feel like the universe used you to send something through the ether, but not always. So half the time, you're walking around just like a regular old person, you're living like a regular old person, and then when the connections occur, there's enormous gratitude because you realize they occurred. It's just like two people who fall in love. They've been playing with each other for years or days or months or whatever it is, and then one day this thing happens. With me, that happens all the time. And I fall in love. I just fall in love with everybody. Not everybody, but a lot of people. And kind of could be everybody. If everybody would stop long enough to let the door open, I would be in love, because being is love. That's what it is. It just wants to love, period.
Have you ever had a student or like an energy that you can't work with or don't want to work with, or it's all
I had
good?
hard students.
Okay, but it's all, you can always find...
The universe basically has said to me, if they're in your presence, you can work it out.
All right.
There's nobody here by mistake, ever. And that's my job. My job is to work it out. Some of you are heavy lifting, some of you are easy lifting. That's not for me to judge. I just keep working until I find the opening, get inside, say hello, give you a hug, move on.
Do you see a commonality between all your students in your 3 locations, or is it just a seeking?
Yeah, seeking.
Just a seeking.
Yeah, there's an honesty of seeking. People don't come to this if they're not honest, and they don't stay, that's for sure. You know, people who want it a particular way will go to find where they can get it their way. This is not going to speak to everybody. Clearly, that's not the case. It's what it is. And I'm not here to build empires. I'm here to work with who shows up. As Rudy said, you know, I've said it a lot. You're the water fountain at the airport. Whoever comes to get a drink of water, you give water. You don't go, no, not you. You're not ready for water. You know, if you're here, you drink and you give. Anybody else? That's a very timid question. Yes?
I always struggle a little bit with this concept of effort, and yet it just happens. So it seems sometimes like a paradox, because sometimes people say just no willfulness is needed.
Well, I've said this before, but I think it's important. There's effort until you arrive at effortlessness. My son, who's a marathon runner, talks about, you know, the 23rd or 4th mile, I forget which mile, 20th mile, because you're working and it gets really hard. And then all of a sudden, there's something he calls second wind, many people call second wind, and then he's running with no effort at all. We have to make an effort until we arrive at effortlessness. That's all. They're not 2 things, it's one thing leading to the other. You know, it's leading to a version of itself where there's no me doing it. It just takes over. That's all. There's no conflict in it. You make an effort until you don't have to. It's like when I write. I used to have to pound it out. I used to write stories were really hard, and then I got better at it. And then I didn't have to use the same energy. But I will tell you that sometimes it gets hard again. Sometimes you go back to effort again. You know, I walk up the same hill here all the time. When I leave my house here to go for my walk, I can either go uphill or downhill, but coming home is also going to be uphill and downhill. And those hills are hard. Some days they're not. Some days the hills are effortless, and some days after I think, why is it hard today? I don't know. I remember when I used to swim, the same thing. I would just move to the pool like nothing, and other days I would go, I can barely get across the pool. Who knows? But if you try to make it an intellectual thing, then you're going to get caught up in analytics that you won't even be able to resolve. It's not intellectual, it is what is. Today is hard, today's not hard. That's it, simple. Work with what is. Okay? Anyone else? Okay.
I just want to say I had a little satsang with my first spiritual teacher last night in a dream, and he said, everything is okay as it isn't. And that was like, reminded me of your talk.
Yeah, great.
It was so liberating to hear that, because the tagline is everything is okay as it is. And then it was like, help me embrace just, well, if it sucks, that's what it is. You know?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, that's exactly right. And that's awakened consciousness.
So powerful.
Everything's okay as it isn't.
As it isn't. Yeah, it was great.
Very important. All polarities merge into singular. That's really what happens, and it's so beautiful. And once you get that, you just go, okay. And then you live life lighter, or enlightened. Thank you, guys. Be around next week.